convicted super thief and self-proclaimed psychic Gina Miller pulled off simultaneous scams and more than a dozen victims for 20 years, taking them for all they were worth and then some.
I lost my house because of all of this. I lost my pension, my 401k, that all went into it.
This is a lot of money that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I showed $2.248 million in the investigation, but she took a plea bargain for $1 million.
Do you think that she stole twice that?
Yes, maybe 3 times.
The 200-page case file details soul-crushing stories from victims driven to bankruptcy and emotionally broken over their relationship with Gina Miller.
My father ended up not even speaking to me before he passed.
Miller blew through the money she stole, thousands of dollars at a time. And then what kind of life was she living while her victims were being absolutely destroyed financially and many of them emotionally as well?
She was living a really good life. If you ever watch the documentaries on people who win the lottery and blow it all, that was her.
Furs and Rolexes, Corvettes and Cadillacs, and plenty of cash, all given to her by victims who thought she was the key to a better life. They believed she had the power to prevent bad things from happening and even to reverse potential curses. But how did she do it? How did she pull it off so many times? And what were the victims thinking as they dug deeper and deeper into debt? I'm Jen Picciano, and this is Dark Side of the Land. In our first episode, profiling convicted fraudster Gina Miller, we introduced you to Detective Mike Mullaney. He's the investigator from the police department in Mentor, Ohio, who committed himself to taking Gina down and setting prosecutors up to successfully put her away.
I read the report. I'm like, this is enough.
We also introduced you to one of Gina's victims.
She pretty much makes you alienate your family.
And we brought in private investigator Bob Nygaard, a retired cop from New York with an undefeated record in prosecuting psychic scam artists like Miller. He's helped recover millions lost in this kind of theft.
You're dealing with a professional con artist. You're dealing with someone that has learned it since they were 5 years old sometimes, watched their grandmother do it and their mother do it. You know, the verbiage rolls right off their tongue as they're doing this.
In this episode, you'll hear exactly how Gina Miller identified her marks and what she said to persuade them into handing over thousands of dollars at a time, all through undercover audio from sessions with someone she thought was her next victim.
I want my husband and I to be like we were when we were first married.
All right, I want you to put that down.
Put what down?
Put the money down.
Okay.
And I want you to shuffle the cards like this.
Okay.
Investigators hung on her every manipulative word as she told the undercover about her dangerous gray aura and her looming marital problems.
If you do not clear this right away, I cannot even say how long it'll be before you will be separate.
Well, we're going through counseling. How do you clear something like this?
You have to clear your aura.
Okay.
This is a spiritual thing, not a physical thing.
Okay. Okay.
We're listening to it live. You know, the undercover was wearing a wire.
After you had been studying and following and investigating this woman, but then you finally got inside and you're listening to it, what did you learn or what were you thinking as you're actually listening to her live, what she thinks is reeling somebody in?
I thought, wow, she's twice as good as I thought she was. She's very good.
Yeah.
That's a lifetime of practicing.
Okay. Let me meditate on him because it's very important.
Okay.
Those recordings with an undercover officer were the final piece of the puzzle that led to her arrest and the end of her decades-long scam.
Oh, police department, search warrant.
Can I help you? Are you serious?
Gina Miller, stand up.
As a self-proclaimed psychic, you'd think she should have seen it coming. That arrest was months in the making after a meticulous investigation. But how do we get here? That's the question so many people ask when they hear someone got taken by a psychic for 6 figures. Gina had a small psychic parlor on Mentor Avenue, and police in town had filed a number of reports with people saying they'd been had. One of Gina's victims, who we're calling Barbara to protect her privacy, says she gave her thousands and thousands of dollars, leased cars for Gina, surrendered her ATM card, and borrowed money from family, all to satisfy Gina, who said she was doing work to prevent bad things from happening to Barbara and her loved ones.
I knocked at her door just to get a card reading, just to see, just out of curiosity, what might be going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of started it.
What about her made you, because on its face, these sound like outrageous things.
They do.
What made you believe her?
She would know things actually and they did happen.
Huh.
And I did have paranormal activity in my house, very odd, that went on for probably 3 years.
What were the odd things that happened that made you believe that there was credibility behind her her warnings and things like that?
This is going to sound like I'm a real insane, crazy person. I would have black stuff coming out of me.
So there was something happened physically with your body that just made you think that you had bad spirits?
Yes. And black, there would be black marks on me for no reason, like dirt that was coming out of me, maybe across my hand or my foot or my knees, or one time my lips were ringed in black. I don't know. And I have no idea how that happened or what was happening. I honestly don't.
And all this was happening while she was telling you that there were bad things around that she was protecting you from.
Yes.
Wow.
And supposedly that was me clearing this evil that had attacked me.
Detective Mullaney says Barbara wasn't the only victim reporting strange happenings during their relationship with Gina Miller.
I can't prove that, but some of the victims told me, like, oh, she was talking about rodents and how rodents were a sign of trouble in your life, and if she was going to do the work, the trouble would go away. And then one of the victims found a dead rat just outside their door. Do we really have rats around Northeast Ohio? I'm sure we do in some places, but not in the suburbs. You know what I mean? So that's odd. Could she have put it there? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, my name is Bob Nygaard, and I'm a
Private investigator Bob Nygaard says illusions and magic tricks, complete with theatrics, are often part of psychic scam artists' MO in an attempt to prove their power.
They're very, very convincing. You're dealing with a professional con artist.
Don't forget, these people are professional people readers. Whatever, Gina was able to get from people, the victims themselves gave her the ammo to shoot them with.
Yeah.
It's like this person.
She wasn't just a tarot card reader. She was a people reader. The audio sessions an undercover officer had with Gina Miller seem to confirm that when Miller is presented with a client she thinks is contemplating divorce.
You don't go to church the way you should. You don't pray the way you should. But God loves you. Listen to me. You're his daughter. And he sent you to me so I could help you. I'm not a fortune teller.
Okay.
I did not read this out of a book. I do not do witchcraft. I didn't go to school for this.
Okay.
When I was 4 years old, I attained a vision. And my parents took me to Jerusalem. I stayed there till I was 12 years old.
Did you catch that? Gina tells the undercover agent that she had a vision when she was 4, and her parents sent her to Jerusalem until she was 12. Our victim, Barbara, admittedly lonely and stuck in a job she didn't like, was just the kind of mark people like Gina look for.
It's hard for someone that's not wrapped up in it. You see, if you were the one that just walked out of the doctor's office and was diagnosed with terminal cancer, you're looking at things from a whole different perspective, okay? If you were the one that your boyfriend or husband just left you for another woman, or a relationship issue you're going through, when you're in a point like that in your life, sometimes people suspend their critical thinking, okay? And so that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who's really going through a tough time. Something's going on in their life, and they then suspend their critical thinking at this critical moment.
Nygaard's time in New York City gave him plenty of experience with fast-talking hustlers. The retired law enforcement officer still looks like a detective on the beat, with a neatly trimmed goatee and mustache and extensive knowledge of psychic scam artist's playbook in his head, which he tops with a signature fedora hat. From him, I wanted to learn the anatomy of this kind of scam. Okay, so help me understand. A lot of people, when they hear about particularly, fortune teller fraud and things of that nature, people say, well, how is this a crime? Where's the crime if they gave this person the money? They didn't steal it. They gave the person the money. Where is the crime in this?
The catch is that usually in these type cases, What the fortune teller will tell the person is, oh, I'm doing God's work. I'm doing this to help you. I'm doing this for free. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart because God wants me to do this for you. And they use a lot of religious terminology. And they say, you just have to give me money because I need to work with the money temporarily. I got to take it to my church, take it to the altar. And then upon completion of the work, I'm going to give you your money back. So when the person is paying, say, $30,000, they don't think they're paying $30,000. They're not actually paying money for a service. They're just giving the psychic the money temporarily to work with the money. And when you say work with the money, well, Bob, what does it mean, work with the money? Well, what they say is money is the root of all evil. And what we want to do is we want to draw the evil. There's a curse on you, and there's evil spirits plaguing you. And we want to take that curse and those evil spirits and move them to the church. So we need to use money. We need something to draw the evil away from you. And evil loves money because money is the root of all evil. So we're going to use the money to draw the evil away from you. Then I'm going to take the money to the church, cleanse the money, and then give it back. Or a watch, a Rolex watch. I need to work with the watch to turn back time, to go back in time to when the curse first started. I have to, if the watch represents time, we have to undo each year that the curse has been on you. I just need you to go get a Rolex. You need to then give it to me. I'll take it to my church. I'll cleanse it, and I'll give you back the jewelry. I'll give you back the watch. But inevitably what happens is the person, the self-proclaimed psychic, never gives it back. When the person asks for their money back, the self-proclaimed psychic says, oh, you don't understand. I was doing battle with the evil spirits at the church, and this is much worse than I thought. And if we stop now, someone in your family will die, or some ominous thing will happen. You'll be in an accident. Your pet, your dog or cat will die. Someone in your family will die. Something really bad will happen. So we can't stop now. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't stop it because I care about you and I can't stop. You need to put more money into the work so that we can continue and then complete the work. And then don't worry, because once we're done, you'll get everything back. Mm-hmm. And now the person sinks more in, and they start sinking more in. And then there comes a point where there's something called the sunk cost fallacy. It's a psychological principle where you sunk money into something and you're hoping you're going to get it back. People have a tendency to keep putting more in the hopes that they'll get it back, than confront the point that maybe they made a mistake in giving it in the first place.
They double down.
They double down like gambling. Oh, if I just play another hand, I'll win it all back. So the psychic plays upon a lot of psychological principles. One of them being, there's something ominous is going to happen. So it's almost like an emotional extortion. If you don't continue, something bad's going to happen to someone in your family, and you're the one who would be responsible then. So they lay this guilt trip on the victim.
So the crime, though, back to my original question, the crime is that the people thought they were lending them the money, but in fact it was taken for good. So it's theft?
It's not even a loan. It's a theft.
Right.
Because you're taking the money under false pretense.
Okay.
The self-proclaimed psychics are making false representations in order to obtain the money.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Other times the psychic will say, oh, I need to go to China to your grandfather's grave, and I need to go back there to undo the curse, and I need you to give me money because I have to fly to China and undo this curse at your grandfather's grave. And then when I check with the State Department, turns out the person never went to China. Okay. Mm-hmm. Another thing, sometimes I'm doing surveillance of a self-proclaimed psychic. You're doing surveillance, and I'm at the church right now. I'm doing battle with the evil spirits. Meanwhile, they're at the Hard Rock Seminole down in Florida, and they're pulling a slot machine while they say they're at the church.
So talk to me about kind of the anatomy of one of these scams. How do the victims get kind of picked or pegged, and how do they lay the groundwork? Because I would imagine not everybody who walks through their door is going to get taken for tens of thousands of dollars. How do these long big ticket cases really begin, and how do they play out? This Gina, she took somebody for 12 years.
Right.
How does that happen?
It starts off with a cold reading. And what a cold reading is when someone walks in off the street cold. They walk into a fortune-telling parlor, and the psychic starts to talk to them. And maybe they're turning over some tarot cards, and maybe they're looking in a crystal ball, but they start to engage the person in conversation. And when they're engaging them in conversation, they start to talk to them. And next thing you know, the person starts to talk about problems that they're experiencing in their life, usually in one of three areas: love, money, or health.
Our victim Barbara's first encounter with Gina was right out of the playbook Nygaard describes.
Well, she greets you with the door with this very sweet, oh, she's happy to see you, and, she actually gave you a hug, which shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
But she just made you feel special and like you had a friend.
They're doing this cold reading, and they're looking for the verbal clues, the nonverbal clues. They're sizing the person up. How is the person dressed? Does the person have a lot of money? What kind of car did they pull up in? Did they pull up in a Mercedes Benz? They'll ask the person to write down their name and their date of birth and their boyfriend or girlfriend's date of birth. They'll do research, what's called a hot reading, when the person leaves. And they'll do research on the internet, Google the person, see, are they a doctor? Are they a lawyer? Who are they? Once they determine that this person is a good mark, what they call a mark, then they say, I have to do deeper research to look at what the root cause of this problem is. I see a darkness. I see a negativity. They'll start the person off with that.
From there, it only escalates. As part of the investigation, Miller's victims submitted statements with shocking stories of all they'd sacrificed. $100,000 given to her from one victim, including an $11,000 Rolex watch. Another reported $300,000 to $400,000 in losses over 7 years. But one victim, who was instrumental in leading Mullaney to Miller's many other victims, said she'd given Gina between $2 and $3 million over the past 20 years.
She's using the same MO. Why would you change your MO if it's working?
True.
Right? I mean, you wouldn't. You don't. Burglars do the same thing. They get in, through the front door or whatever every single time. That's the way they do it because they know it works. They're comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
I mean, she made some woman change her name.
Yes.
Go back to her maiden name. I mean, these were power moves.
Yes. It's all about control. If I have control over you, I can get your money. Mm-hmm. And it's not even just cash in the bank. Like I said, it's the 401ks and it's the setting up the calls, pretending to be the victims and
drive us to Florida.
Yeah, that's
pay for our vacation.
Yeah.
3 weeks of hotels.
Yeah.
A person she knew 2 weeks. Detective Mullaney conducted surveillance on vehicles leased in victims' names, tracked down pawned Rolexes, and followed a paper trail that detailed a web of fraud and millions taken from at least a dozen victims.
Date is Wednesday, September 2nd, 11:46 a.m. We're going to be sending in the BCI undercover for the scheduled meet with the target.
Detective Mullaney is clean-cut and in good shape. He looks like a guy you'd find in any given roll call at a suburban Ohio police department. Now it was time for the final piece of his investigation, getting Gina on tape, trying to work an undercover, just like she had her countless victims.
Hi. Good, how are you? Good. Thanks for seeing me. I'm sorry, you're who?
Gina.
Gina, hi, Patty. Nice to meet you.
Mullaney recruited an officer from the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation to play the role. She made an appointment with Miller to meet up at her psychic parlor. So I combed through what must have been at least 100 pictures in this case file, and evidence photos show that it's a tiny ranch-style home on a main thoroughfare in Mentor. It's sparsely furnished and not well kept, but there is a sitting room there with a small square-shaped table covered in a wrinkled tablecloth and a pair of mauve-colored brocade-upholstered chairs in the room. There's also a little salt lamp and a large candle on the table and a deck of tarot cards. There's a set of shelves on the wall, but they're mostly empty apart from some gold religious figurines. Gina began the session just like the PI Nygaard said she would.
But you need a reading, you need to find out what exactly is going on in your life.
Yeah.
I have a $25 palm reading.
Okay.
It's a character reading, tells you mostly about
Okay.
yourself. Then I have my card reading, which is more in depth, knows
Okay.
your past, present, future,
Okay.
answers a question.
Okay.
Then I have a full life psychic aura reading, which is
Okay.
both your palms
Okay.
and your aura
Okay.
and your cards. That's all three readings combined.
Okay.
That's a full life reading that knows your past, present, future.
Okay.
Gives you advice on life, answers all your questions. That reading is $50.
Okay.
Which one
Let's
would you
do. Can we do everything?
You can
I
do
feel
everything.
like everything.
Okay.
The undercover, who used the name Patty, revealed her made-up backstory about trouble in her marriage. Gina did a tarot card reading and wove a tale about Patty's gray aura in need of clearing.
Your aura is supposed to be bright colors like yellow, pink, green, blue, orange, purple. Bright colors.
Okay.
Patty, your aura is not bright. Your aura is going to
Great. That's not the worst, though, right?
be. Thank God it's not black.
Okay.
but it is very
Okay.
gray.
Okay.
Now you never know when it could turn black.
Okay.
It could turn black tonight.
Gina, recognizing a mark when she sees one, offered her a solution.
Because what's going to wind up happening is you're going to get a divorce if you don't fix
I
this.
want a divorce.
Well, we got to fix it. You need crystals. Do you know what crystals are?
I have not a clue.
Okay. There's stones made out of crystal. I'll show you.
Okay.
These are not something you buy at the store. Some come from the Holy Land. Some come from Canada. Some come from Egypt. You have to wear them close to your skin for 9 days and 9 nights. You got to put them in your pocket,
Okay.
in your bra. When you sleep, you put them underneath your bed or underneath your pillow.
Okay.
In 9 days and 9 nights, Patty, you're going to see results. You might bring me a nice present. You're going to say thank you,
Okay.
Gina.
9 days?
In 9 days.
Okay.
Thank you for praying for me.
My husband doesn't know about this, so.
He's not going to know about
Okay.
anything. You
Okay.
don't have
I
to worry
don't want
about
him
it.
to know.
No one's going to know. Whatever goes on, the only thing that
Okay.
knows is me, you, and God. And that's
Okay.
it. No one else.
Okay.
These crystals cost $20 each, and they're that you need. Patty, how much is 9 times 20?
180.
Are you able to do this
Yes,
$180?
yes.
Put it in your right hand.
Gina concludes this first session by making sure all this is kept quiet, the money and the crystals.
We have to keep the secret, whatever me you are doing.
Okay.
After I'm done, you can tell the whole world I don't care.
Okay.
It's more advertisement from me.
Okay.
But right now, you must keep secret. Can you do that?
I'm going to try. Yeah, I have to.
Now, are you coming back in this area tomorrow?
She gets pushy about if and when Patty will make another appointment.
Now, I'm going to have to see you.
Okay.
I don't want to wait a week. What would stop you from stopping back?
I just can't guarantee that I'm going to be back today. I mean, if I'm in the area, I will talk to you. However, I know this is important. This is very important.
This is like a life and death thing.
I know.
And just like the private eye warned, she asked for personal details about Patty and her husband, presumably to do that hot reading and research he mentioned.
I want to meditate on your husband.
Okay.
Okay, and I want you to give me put down here his first name and date of birth. Okay. Okay, put down your first name.
Yeah.
Your last name. You have a middle name, Patty?
Yes.
Okay, I need your maiden name when you were born.
Gina concludes the session by suggesting Patty's husband may also need crystals, which of course would mean more money, and plants even more doubt in her client's head.
You're on the edge. You and
Okay.
him.
Okay.
You're on the edge.
After what Gina believes to be Patty's failed attempt at a couple's getaway, the undercover returns for a second session. Gina picks up right where she left off.
But this problem that you have now, you cannot solve on your own. You can fight and argue to make this work, and it's not going to work. The end of this is you will be divorced. If this work is not done with.
Miller tells a tale about people from high school and even junior high using wax images to bring darkness upon Patty, trying to send her to a mental institution even, and sentencing her soul to purgatory.
The same way we do the good, that's the same way they do the bad. Same identical way. But only there's good and evil, just like there's God and the devil. Do you understand what I'm saying? But God can't come down on this earth, Patty, to help you. Just like if you're going to go to a doctor and need surgery, God is not going to come down and perform surgery on you, but he sends you to the right doctor. Just like if you're going to fight a case in the courtroom, God ain't going to come down and fight your case, but he's going to send you to the right lawyer. That's the same way as with me. God can't come down to help you, even though you're not going to church, even though you're not praying the way you should, even though your faith is not the way it should. You're his daughter. He loves you. It's all what's in your heart. And he sent you to me so that I can help you. And he sent you back. Again.
Right.
For you to finish this. For you to find out exactly what's going on before you do lose your mind. Before you can get committed in a mental institution. And die there. Because that's what they want.
The price tag for purging her from purgatory and saving her from a mental institution? $4,600 for wax, arbitrarily decided by how much Patty and her husband want to weigh.
Okay.
And if 130, what you want to be your weight, we're going to do it. And he's supposed to be around 200 pounds, correct? That's still 330 pounds of wax.
Okay.
I'm going to need to do this work to dress these images, to show these people wrong. Are you willing to sacrifice that piece of money?
I don't have it today.
All right, but
I will
listen,
come tomorrow.
you got to start today. How much are you able to do today?
I've got about $400 on me.
That's not enough.
There's no way I'm going to get it. I can give you what I have today, and I'll have to get to
You
the rest.
can't get to the bank today.
I've got money in the safety deposit box.
Okay, and
And
where
my
is that
purse,
at?
It's at my home.
And if we wait, okay, tonight. They could do something else, Patty, that I'm not going to be able to read.
She pushes Patty about using her credit cards, checking, and savings accounts.
You got to trust me.
I do trust you.
You got to have confidence in me, Patty, so I can do this.
In the end, Patty the undercover gives Gina all the money in her purse and promises to drain her bank account to come up with the rest. Before they part ways, she puts cash in Gina's hand for the start of some of her promised work.
All right, say, let this be used.
Let this be used
For the start.
for the start
Of my marriage.
of my marriage
And my happiness.
and my happiness.
Do you do this with faith in God?
Yeah.
Do you do this with confidence in me?
Yes, I do.
All right, you put that down.
And that exchange of money was the last element Detective Mullaney needed. It was time for one final meetup to serve a warrant for her arrest.
Okay, pulling in. Time is approximately 10:13.
Patty walks back into the parlor and, after a brief exchange about money again, asks if Gina had made any progress with the wax sculptures she was paid to make.
Were you able to start the process?
Yeah, I started everything out yesterday.
Do you have anything I can look at?
Not yet.
Gina directs the conversation back to when and how she was going to get more money from Patty, but their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door.
Hello, police department, search warrant.
Can I help you? Are you serious?
Gina Miller, stand up. There's a warrant for your arrest.
For what?
Stand up.
Are you serious or joking?
Very serious.
About what?
Felony 2 theft warrant.
Gina seems confused about why the police are there for her.
Patty, did you bring them here?
The satisfaction I got slapping the handcuffs on her, like, I can't recreate that. And she didn't want to talk, and that's fine. That's her thing. But, you know, and I remember, too, because Gina's mini. She's, like, not even 5 foot tall. I always carried 2 sets of cuffs, like one for, like, men and, like, a smaller one for, like, you know, females, you know, petite.
Yeah.
And, like, it went on, like, almost all the way. And I remember thinking, like, this little lady, you know, swindled all this money from so many people. And, like, you're not intimidating. She's not
Physically not intimidating.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So emotionally intimidating.
Right?
Though.
But that's how she got him.
Incredible.
You know, this little tiny lady.
Gina lawyered up and didn't give Mullaney the chance to interrogate the person who he said even he picked up interrogation skills from. So she gets locked up, and you've got a incredible case against her, 6+ months worth of work done. You feel like with the prosecutors and you guys, you feel like you've got it set. She was going to go to trial, right?
Yes. And we were like, wow, this is going to be quite the trial.
Yeah. But what was the tipping point? Why didn't she end up going to trial? In one word, Nygaard. In his research, Mullaney came across a string of successful prosecutions Bob Nygaard had been a part of and reached out to him for some guidance.
So I looked over this case and I said, wow, this is one of the best jobs. And to this day, this still stands. The Mentor Police Department, Mike Mullaney specifically, did one of the best jobs investigating a psychic fraud case that I've ever seen in all the time I've been doing this.
Nygaard said Mullaney went above and beyond to set up prosecutors for a successful conviction. So you had been looking into and investigating self-proclaimed psychics and fraudulent psychics for a decade. How good was Gina?
Gina was excellent. Gina, like I'm saying, she hit all of the check marks of the hallmarks of a scam. I mean, the words just rolled off her tongue. In order for her to be able to do that for 20 years and do that to that many people, I believe there was like 11 or 13 victims. It was more than 10 victims. And to engage in that type of behavior for that amount of time, for a 20-year period, and be able to do that wide variety of people, I mean, she had to be really good at what she did in order to be able to do that.
It was a combination of Mullaney's good old-fashioned police work and Nygaard's rep that sealed Gina's fate. She was going to go to trial, but then what happened?
Well, what happened was, I later learned from Mike, he sent me an email one day, and then we talked, and he said that he was listening to the post-sentencing jail tapes, because they can listen in on the jail tapes when they're talking, and it was post-sentencing. And he goes, Bob, he goes, you know something? He goes, they brought you up by name during the jail tapes when they were talking. And so basically what I believe occurred is that when I got involved in the case, they thought that I had come out there. He said, they thought you came out here and got involved in the investigation. Actually, we're in Mentor. I think what happened was they said, well, you know what? They brought Bob Nygon in. Let's just throw in the towel. So
Your
that's my
reputation
assumption.
preceded you.
That's what I believe, probably took place.
She pleads.
Yes,
Right.
after months.
After months, she pleads out to what at this point? I mean, what did you bring in terms of charges, and what did she end up pleading out to?
Well, the case I prepared was a F1 predicate offense RICO statute case, organized crime. You know, it's like the mob buster type code that they invented for people engaging in criminal enterprise. But there was money laundering, extortion, credit card fraud, forgery, and I think we were trying to get a kidnapping in there for when she picked up the one victim, grabbed her by the shirt and said, "Get in the car, you're going to the bank." That's when she had prepared the 401k withdrawal.
In the end, Gina was charged with 5 felonies, but as part of a plea deal, all but 1 for aggravated theft were dismissed.
Kind of ruined my relationship with the prosecutor in this case, because when they told me they were going to do that, I had some very direct words with them. I was very, very upset. It's like I did all that, and they told me, "Calm down, Mike. This is a super theft."
What is a super theft?
F1 theft, $1 million. Oh, it's a super theft.
Okay. So they thought that they had a better chance of getting more time or getting a stronger chance of conviction, or what?
Well, it's a way less sentence. I mean, she was looking at 40-some years in prison on the RICO, But that would have been a very costly trial for the county. It would have taken a long, long time.
Okay. Well.
And I get it.
Now.
I get it, but I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad about it from 2016.
5 years later.
Yeah, I'm upset.
Still.
I told them I gave you A quality plus investigation. You're giving me C minus prosecution.
But they still went through with it. She got 8 years.
She did, yeah.
What would you like to have seen her serve?
At least 15. I mean, but, and that's on the bare minimum. You got to understand, too, at her sentencing, a couple of victims chose to speak.
Oh, did they?
They did. And one young woman told her to her face in front of her family, her own family, the victim's own family, that she was ready to knock on Gina's door and shoot herself in the head committing suicide because she couldn't take it any longer. And I watched that dad cry.
Oh, my goodness.
And I can't even imagine the courage this young woman had to, A, admit that, B, say it in front of her own family, and worst of all, that's the way she actually felt.
Yeah, and that she was able to, and having been in that place at some point, being able to stand up and say that out loud to her.
Yes.
What tremendous courage she had to have found. Gina Miller was sentenced to 8 years. Today, she's in a minimum security prison in downtown Cleveland. She recently filed a petition for an early release after serving 5 of her 8 years, citing good behavior and bettering herself through inmate programs. She got her GED and an associate's degree in culinary during her time behind bars. She's even participating in a work release program, which allows her to leave lockup 5 or 6 days a week to go to work at one of the swankiest restaurants in town, the Marble Room. The early release petition contained glowing reviews from corrections officers. Perhaps she conned them too. The state didn't buy what she was peddling, and neither did the judge. She was denied that early release. Since her conviction, some restitution has been paid out to her victims.
I promised these victims, I said, I'm going to get you back everything I possibly can. I had the pleasure to deliver some checks. Yeah.
Oh, what a moment.
Yeah, I got to deliver some checks and sign over some Rolex watches to people and stuff. Like, here's your $10,000 Rolex back. Some of the stuff was auctioned, and then they got the money for it and all that, through the courts. The one lady, I got to bring her check, you know what I mean? And this lady was a nervous wreck. She would tremble every time you saw her, and she was feeble. Not that old, but feeble, And I knock on the door with the one victim's advocate who I'm friends with, and I was so excited to give her a check. She had passed away. So I remember standing there with the check, I was almost teary-eyed, I'm like, oh, what do I do now? She never got to see her money.
Miller's victims are hardly whole again. One I spoke with simply couldn't bear the idea of reopening the wounds to talk about all she'd been through. Barbara says she still hasn't healed. Have you recovered?
only because my dad passed and he did leave me some money.
Mm-hmm.
But I will never be able to retire.
Emotionally, have you recovered?
I don't know, because I'm still not connected with my siblings.
This case also follows Mullaney, even after the case was closed and into his retirement from the force.
For months, years after I investigated that case, my desk phone would ring and I'd pick it up. Hey, I'm so-and-so from Texas. You know, I'm a cop down here. How'd you do that?
Because there's got to be countless more victims and fake fraud psychics doing some of the same things. Maybe not as well as Gina, but are people coming to you?
Yeah, for years. At first, a lot. I mean, I'd get 5 or 10 a week.
Well, hopefully this will have a powerful ripple effect, not only for law enforcement to use some of the same successful tactics that you did, but then also to give other victims confidence to come forward that they will be taken care of, that they will eventually come out from underneath the thumb of these manipulative criminals.
I think I only uncovered the tip of the iceberg with what they really do and really had going on, but it was enough to make a change.
Detective Mullaney leaves us with this last thought. If you're going to walk into a psychic parlor, keep it light and don't reveal too much so you don't go in on a lark and wind up being a mark. I'm Jen Picciano, and this is Dark Side of the Land. Subscribe now for future episodes and find more Dark Side of the Land and photo galleries related to these cases at cleveland19.com.